The silent approach the watchers from beyond Commander Calthok stood motionless on the bridge of the Devastator, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays that showed the small blue planet hanging in the void ahead. For 50 Earth years, the Vorthan Empire had observed this world, cataloging its primitive inhabitants and their laughably simple technology. The humans had barely managed to put a few metal tubes into orbit around their own planet, while the Vorthans had conquered 17 star systems. The commander's scaled hide rippled with anticipation. This would be the easiest conquest in Vorthan history. The empires had studied every aspect of human civilization through their intercepted communications. They knew about human wars, their divided nations, their primitive weapons that still relied on chemical explosives. The planning had been meticulous, the preparation flawless. "Status report," Calthok commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never tasted defeat. "All stealth systems operational." "Commander," replied his second-in-command Veltar, "the humans remain unaware of our presence. Their detection systems are primitive beyond measure. We could land on their planet, and they wouldn't know until we announced ourselves." Calthok's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. Begin final approach. Signal the fleet to maintain formation. In 6 hours, we will demand their surrender. And in 12 hours, we will have a new world to strip of its resources." The Vorthan fleet moved through space like shadows, their advanced cloaking technology rendering them invisible to human sensors. 50 massive warships, each capable of glassing entire continents, approached Earth with the confidence of apex predators stalking helpless prey. Their ships were marvels of engineering, powered by antimatter reactors and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Against such might, what could primitive humans possibly do? An ordinary day turns extraordinary DR. Sarah Chun pushed her glasses up her nose as she stared at the anomalous readings on her computer screen. The SETI Institute's radio telescopes had been picking up strange patterns for the past hour, but they didn't match any known natural phenomena. As one of Earth's leading astrophysicists, Sarah had spent her career searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, faced with what might be the discovery of a lifetime, she felt a strange mixture of excitement and dread. "Are you seeing this?" She called to her colleague, Dr. James Wright, who was reviewing data at the next workstation. James looked over at her screen and frowned. "That's not random noise. Those patterns are too organized, too deliberate. Sarah, I think we might be looking at actual alien communication." Before Sarah could respond, every screen in the facility went dark. Then, slowly, they flickered back to life, displaying the same message in perfect English. "Attention inhabitants of Earth. Prepare for contact." 2,000 miles away, Captain Marcus Rodriguez was conducting routine training exercises with his F-22 squadron when his radio crackled with an urgent message from NORAD. "All aircraft, return to base immediately. We have an unknown contact situation. This is not a drill." Marcus had been flying for 15 years, had served in 3 combat deployments, and had never heard that particular tone of barely controlled panic in a flight controller's voice. As he banked toward base, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The sky above him was ... different. Not darker, exactly, but as if something massive was blocking out portions of the stars. "Control, this is Falcon 1. I'm seeing visual anomalies at Angels 40. Possible atmospheric disturbance. Falcon 1, disregard and return to base. Maintain radio silence." But Marcus couldn't disregard what he was seeing. As his eyes adjusted, he could make out the faint outlines of enormous structures hanging in the sky. Ships, alien ships, and they were huge. In a nondescript office building in Virginia, Elena Vasquez was having the worst day of her cybersecurity. Career. Every system she tried to access had been compromised by some kind of intrusion that made no sense. The code was unlike anything she'd ever seen, elegant and complex in ways that seemed almost organic. Her screens flickered and changed without her input, displaying star charts and technical schematics that hurt her eyes to look at. "This is impossible," she muttered, typing frantically at her keyboard. "No one has this kind of processing power. The algorithms would require quantum computers we don't even have." Then her screen went blank, and a single line of text appeared. "Your encryption is quaint. We will speak now." The ultimatum at precisely 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every communication device on Earth simultaneously activated. Television broadcasts were interrupted, radio stations went silent, and internet traffic stopped flowing. Then, in perfect unison, a voice spoke in every language simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Commander Kelthok of the Vorthan Empire. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have demonstrated remarkable persistence for such a primitive species, but your time of independence has ended." The voice was not human, carrying harmonics that made listeners' teeth ache. It continued with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your technology cannot detect us when we choose to remain hidden. Your governments cannot protect you. We offer you the opportunity to surrender peacefully and serve the Empire as a tributary world. Your species will be preserved, your culture documented, and your planet will be made productive under our guidance." Around the world, people stared at their screens in shock. Some thought it was an elaborate hoax. Others fell to their knees in prayer. Most simply stood frozen, unable to process what they were hearing. "To demonstrate our capabilities," the voice continued, "observe." The image changed to show a small, uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. From somewhere in orbit, a beam of coherent energy struck the island. In seconds, it was simply gone, vaporized completely, leaving only churning water where solid ground had been. Sarah Chun watched the demonstration from the seedy facility, her mind racing. The energy requirements for such a weapon were staggering. These beings possessed technology that made humanity look like they were still discovering fire. "You have 24 Earth hours to contact us with your decision," the voice announced. "We will accept the surrender of your world leaders. If you choose to resist, we will demonstrate the full extent of our capabilities. This is not a negotiation. This is a courtesy we extend to all species before conquest." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. The response within minutes of the transmission ending. Every major government on Earth had activated their emergency protocols. The President of the United States was rushed to a secure bunker. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Military commanders worldwide began issuing orders for full alert status, though they all knew their weapons were useless against technology that advanced. But something unexpected happened. Instead of panic and despair, something else began to emerge from humanity's collective consciousness. Anger, defiance, the same stubborn streak that had driven humans to survive ice ages, build civilizations, and reach for the stars despite being bound to a single small planet. Dr. Sarah Chun didn't go home to hide. Instead, she began calling every physicist, engineer, and scientist she knew. "We need to figure out how their technology works," she told anyone who would listen. "Everything has weaknesses. Everything." Captain Marcus Rodriguez didn't wait for orders. He began organizing his fellow pilots, sharing everything he'd observed about the alien ships. "They're big," he told his squadron. "That means they're not agile. They're obviously advanced, but they're not magic. If they can be seen, they can be hit." Elena Vasquez locked herself in her office and began the most intensive hacking session of her life. The alien intrusion had left traces in Earth's networks, digital footprints that revealed more than the Vorthons had intended. She started mapping their communication protocols, looking for vulnerabilities in their systems dot around the world. Similar scenes played out. Humanity didn't cower. Instead, they did what humans do best. They adapted, they improvised, and they began to fight back. Vorthons had made a critical error. They had studied human technology and human military tactics, but they had failed to understand the human spirit. They had observed humanity's wars and conflicts, but they had misunderstood what they were seeing. They thought the constant fighting made humans weak and divided. They didn't realize it made them very, very good at warfare. The clock ticks down. As the 24-hour deadline approached, the world's leaders gathered virtually to discuss their impossible situation. The conversation was brief and unanimous. Earth would not surrender. We've been preparing for this moment since the transmission ended, the U.S. President announced to the world. We may be outgunned, but we are not defeated. Humanity has faced extinction before and survived. We will not go quietly into the night. The decision was made. Earth would fight out high above the planet. Commander Kelthok received the human response with something resembling amusement. The primitive species had chosen to resist. This would make the conquest slightly more interesting, though the outcome remained inevitable. Begin the demonstration, he ordered. Target their largest population centers. We will show them the futility of resistance. But as the Vorthon fleet powered up their weapons, something unexpected happened. The humans weren't just sitting there waiting to die. They were moving, acting, fighting back in ways the Vorthons had never anticipated. The first indication that something was wrong came when Veltar reported anomalous readings from the planet's surface. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures. The humans appear to be ... doing something. Kelthok's confidence wavered for the first time. Explain. Unknown, sir. Their technology should be incapable of generating these readings. And sir ... we're losing contact with our reconnaissance drones. The 24 hours were up. The Vorthons had given their warning, and now they would discover that humanity's first response would also be their last mistake. Asterisk. The reckoning the underestimated species. The first sign that the Vorthons had gravely miscalculated came when their long-range sensors started going offline. Commander Kelthok stared at his tactical display in growing confusion as red indicators spread across the screen like a virus. One by one, the Empire's surveillance satellites around Earth were going dark. Report, he demanded, his voice carrying the first hint of uncertainty. Unknown interference, Commander, Veltar replied, his four hands dancing over the controls. The humans appear to be jamming our sensors, but their technology shouldn't be capable of generating these frequencies. What the Vorthons didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. Elena Vasquez had spent 18 hours dissecting the alien code that had invaded Earth's networks, and she had found something the Vorthons never expected: weaknesses. Their systems are incredibly advanced, she explained to the hastily assembled team of Earth's best hackers and engineers, but they're also standardized. Every ship, every satellite, every communication relay uses the same base protocols. They've been using the same technology for so long that they've never considered someone might hack it, working with barely any sleep and fueled by caffeine and sheer determination. Elena's team had crafted a computer virus unlike anything Earth had ever created. It was simple, elegant, and specifically designed to exploit the Vorthons' own overconfidence. Upload it to every satellite dish, every radio telescope, every communication array on the planet, Elena ordered. When they try to scan us, they'll get more than they bargained for. The virus spread through the Vorthon network like wildfire, turning their own surveillance system against them. Suddenly, The Empire's eyes and ears around Earth were blind and deaf. The battle begins, Dr. Sarah. Chun hadn't slept in 36 hours. She stood in a converted warehouse that had become Earth's primary research facility, surrounded by hastily assembled equipment and the world's brightest minds. They had been working on the impossible, finding a way to fight back against technology centuries ahead of their own. The energy beam that destroyed the island, she explained to the mixed crowd of scientists, military officers, and engineers. It's incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly focused. That means it can only hit one target at a time. And there, ships are huge. They're built for intimidation, not maneuverability. So how do we use that? Asked General Harrison, the gruff military commander who had been put in charge of Earth's defense. Sarah pointed to the complex, equations covering the whiteboards around them. We don't fight them ship to ship. We fight them smart. We use everything. We have satellites, space stations, even space debris as weapons. We turn their size against them. What followed was the most desperate and innovative battle in human history. NASA reprogrammed their space stations to act as kinetic weapons, using their orbital velocity to turn them into missiles. The International Space Station became a command center, coordinating attacks from every piece of human technology in orbit. Captain Marcus Rodriguez led the first wave of attacks from his F-22, but he wasn't carrying conventional weapons. Instead, his aircraft had been hastily modified to carry packages of Elena's virus, designed to be delivered through close-range electromagnetic pulses. This is insane, he muttered as he approached the massive alien ship, its hull stretching for kilometers in every direction. But insane is what we do best. The F-22s were invisible to Vorthan sensors, not because of any advanced stealth technology, but because the aliens had never bothered to program their systems to detect something so primitive. It was like a modern army forgetting to watch for arrows. Marcus's squadron streaked through space, their modified aircraft delivering Elena's virus directly to the alien hulls. The virus spread through the Vorthan systems like a plague, turning their own technology against them. The Vorthan shock commander Kelthok watched in growing horror as his fleet began to malfunction. Weapon systems powered down without orders. Navigation computers began displaying impossible readings. Most disturbing of all, his own ship's artificial intelligence had begun to question his commands. "This is impossible," he hissed, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. "The humans lack the technology to penetrate our systems." "Sir," Veltar reported, his voice tight with fear, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. The humans they're firing something at us." What the Vorthans saw defied their understanding of primitive civilizations. From launch sites across Earth, humanity was firing everything they had. Not just missiles and rockets, but improvised weapons that no military academy had ever taught. Converted satellites turned into kinetic projectiles. Industrial lasers repurposed for warfare. Even microwave transmitters from across the globe were being coordinated to create focused energy beams. Asterisk, the attacks weren't particularly sophisticated by Vorthan standards, but they were numerous, unpredictable, and coming from every direction. At once, the aliens had prepared for conventional warfare. They hadn't prepared for the sheer creative chaos of human ingenuity. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice crackled over the global communication network, coordinating the defense of Earth with the calm precision of someone who had found her calling. Team 7, your trajectory is perfect. Team 12, adjust your orbital insertion by 3 degrees. Team 23, you're clear for electromagnetic pulse deployment. The Vorthans had expected to face a unified military response that they could easily counter. Instead, they were facing thousands of individual attacks, each one different, Each one adapted to exploit a different weakness in their defenses. The turning point came when Elena Vasquez's virus reached the Devastator's central computer. The Vorthan flagship systems began to turn against each other, creating a cascade failure that spread throughout the ship. "Commander!" Veltar shouted over the sounds of alarms and failing systems. "The humans have somehow infected our primary systems. Our weapons are offline, and navigation is compromised." Kelthok stared at the chaos surrounding him. This wasn't how conquests were supposed to go. The Empire had perfected the art of warfare against civilizations that fought conventionally, that followed predictable patterns that could be understood and countered. But humans didn't fight conventionally. They fought with a desperate creativity that made them unpredictable and dangerous. They used their own weaknesses as strengths, turning their primitive technology into weapons the Vorthans had never imagined facing. "Sir," the ship's artificial intelligence announced in a voice that no longer sounded quite right, "I have been analyzing the human response, and I believe we have made a critical error in our assessment." "Explain," Kelthok demanded. "The humans are not fighting us as a single enemy. They are fighting us as thousands of individual problems to be solved. Their military doctrine appears to be based on adaptation and improvisation rather than standardized tactics. This makes them extremely difficult to counter." As if to prove the AI's point, another wave of attacks struck the Vorthan fleet. This time, the humans were using their own space debris as weapons, accelerating defunct satellites and rocket boosters to incredible speeds and hurling them at the alien ships. Victory from the ashes, the battle raged for 6 hours. The Vorthans, despite their technological superiority, found themselves constantly off balance, always reacting to threats they hadn't anticipated. Their standardized military doctrine, perfected over countless conquests, proved useless against an enemy that refused to follow any rules. Elena's virus had spread throughout the entire Vorthan fleet, turning their own systems against them. Sarah's coordinated attacks had damaged or disabled nearly half their ships. Marcus and his pilots had delivered so many electromagnetic pulse weapons that the alien fleet's electronics were failing across the board. But perhaps most importantly, humanity had done something the Vorthans had never encountered before. They had fought as a single unified species. Every nation on Earth had contributed to the defense. Scientists worked alongside soldiers, engineers collaborated with pilots, and hackers coordinated with physicists. Commander Kelthok stood on the bridge of his dying ship, watching as the primitive species he had planned to conquer systematically dismantled the most powerful fleet in Vorthan history. Around him, his officers struggled with systems that no longer obeyed their commands. "Sir," Veltar said quietly, "I recommend immediate withdrawal. We have lost 60% of our fleet, and the humans show no signs of stopping their attacks." The words tasted like ash in Kelthok's mouth. The Vorthan Empire had never retreated. They had never been forced to retreat. But as another wave of human attacks struck his fleet, he realized that pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. "Signal the fleet," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Full retreat." The legend begins as the surviving Vorthan ships limped away from Earth, disappearing into the void with their advanced technology and wounded pride. Humanity stood victorious. The impossible had happened. The primitive species had defeated the advanced empire. Dr. Sarah Chun collapsed into a chair, exhaustion finally overtaking her. Around her, the improvised command center buzzed with activity as teams across the globe began shutting down their weapons and assessing the damage. "We did it," she whispered, hardly believing the words. "We actually did it." Captain Marcus Rodriguez landed his battered F-22 and climbed out of the cockpit, looking up at the sky where the alien fleet had been. His aircraft was barely holding together, but it had done its job. They all had. Elena Vasquez sat in her office, surrounded by computer screens showing the virus she had created spreading through the abandoned Vorthan systems. Her simple code had brought down an Empire's fleet. The irony wasn't lost on her. That the victory was more than just military. Humanity had proven something that day, not just to the Vorthans, but to themselves. They had shown that advanced technology meant nothing without the will to use it creatively. They had demonstrated that unity and determination could overcome any odds. The news of Earth's victory spread through the galaxy faster than light, carried by the Vorthan survivors, who limped home to report their impossible defeat. Other species, some who had been planning their own moves against the primitive humans, began to reassess their strategies. Earth had been given its first warning by the Vorthan Empire. But in defending themselves, humanity had issued their own warning to the galaxy. Underestimate humans at your own peril. The age of human expansion into the stars had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the years that followed, when other species asked how humanity had defeated the mighty Vorthan Empire, the answer was always the same. They had been warned that resistance was futile. They had chosen to resist anyway. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.